It's been 84 years.
Hey everyone, It's here.
A while ago, I made a video discussing one of my favorite video game series of all time, EA's Skate. The final game in the trilogy, Skate 3, was released all the way back in 2010, so you can imagine my excitement when I announced a new entry in the series back in 2020. After 5 long years of anticipation, the wait was finally over. Kind of. The game was released in September this year in early access, so while it's not like this game is unplayable or anything, it isn't completely finished, which will factor into how I talk about this game. Speaking of which, let's get into the 2025 Skate Reboot and see if it manages to live up to legacy left by its predecessors. While Black Box shut down sometime after the original trilogy's release, the new team Full Circle has quite a few people who worked on these initial games, including the series co-creators. The first positive I have is that this gameplay definitely still feels like Skate. The Flick-It system hasn't seen any noticeable overhauls, and it's as intuitive as it was back in 2007. There's been no other skating series I've enjoyed as much as this one, and the controls are one of the greatest reasons why. Although it's not the only one, as you will see in a bit. I do have to emphasize that this game is in early access, and I have things to say about that, both positive and negative. First, this game has the chance to address some of my complaints, but it also makes me question why the game was released in this state in the first place. The original Skate trilogy had stories that, while not the most important part of the games, were great inclusions that made each entry incredibly replayable. I've only played the game for a few hours, so I don't know what happens after this, but currently, you do a series of tasks while characters explain where to go next and what to do. This is similar to the gameplay loop of the original games, but the narrative feels far more loose in comparison. Each skate game began with a fantastic cutscene filled with cameos from actual skaters. These were both incredibly charming and revealed the inciting incident of each entry, getting hit by a bus in Skate 1, being released from prison in Skate 2, and failing to jump the Port Carverton Shark in Skate 3. The intro to Skate 2025 is cool, showing clips from the games, behind the scenes, and even YouTubers from what I noticed, but it doesn't attempt to connect you to the plot. The story's kind of vague as you restore skate culture in San Amsterdam. This seems to be a continuation of Skate 2's plot, as Mongo Corp, apparently now called M Corp, hopes to ban skating. I feel like Skate 2 does this plot a lot better, as it uses an earthquake in San Valona to show how Mongo Corp came to power and already began with skating being banned, adding stakes to your actions to bring back skating. Now, you're just kind of skating around with the barely looming threat of M Corp over you. There are a few callbacks to the previous games which are fun, but it does feel like there could have been more. Shingo, the cameraman of Skate 3, returns and talks to you during some missions. Slappy also returns, and he was the owner of a skate park named after himself in Skate 2. I'm pretty sure they brought back the original voice actors, and admittedly, you can tell these guys aren't professional voice actors, but it's still cool to see them back. Unfortunately, Rita, the cameraman from the first 2 games, doesn't return, which is admittedly a shame. I also have to acknowledge that, while Shingo joins you for some challenges, he's not your main companion. Instead, an AI named V gives you instructions and commentary. This leads me to a broader point. The tone of this game stands apart from the franchise, which unfortunately just felt inevitable. The original Skate series lasted from 2007 to 2010, and they portrayed a pretty consistent skating culture, as things didn't really change that much in that time. But by 2025, it's clear things have changed. Skateboarding in public with friends filming you just isn't as common, and pretending otherwise would feel forced.
On the other hand,
The unique aesthetic of the original trilogy is what made those games so memorable. Considering all this, it's understandable that the creators struggle with this dilemma, but unfortunately, it still means they prefer the setting of the first 3 games. Speaking of setting, this game takes place in San Amsterdam. If you take into consideration the name of San Valona from the first 2 games, I'd assume the city is based on San Francisco, Vancouver, and Amsterdam. This is a solid map with a lot of areas to skate through, although I do have some complaints. One issue I had with Skate 3 is that there were multiple different districts, but unlike the first 2 games, they were disconnected and could only be reached through fast travel. I love how you could get on your skateboard and go wherever in Skate 1 and 2, especially when you move from one district to the next. The new map has districts, and they're fine on their own, but they're not really that different from each other. If this entire map were one giant district, I would not question it for a second. It does affect the game's replayability a bit, as whenever I was bored in one area in the original games, I'd be able to move somewhere else completely different. There are plans for new areas to skate, although I don't know how big these additions would be. Overall, I hope that this map is allowed to be a bit more unique. While M Corp is mentioned, there are no security guards in the first 2 games, and you can't really interact with pedestrians. Crashing into pedestrians and running away from them added a lot of character and made the world feel much more lived in. This, combined with a lot of the stuff I've talked about, adds to the feeling that this game is kind of empty. One common complaint I've heard about is the art style, which has lost some of its edge compared to what came before. I like the color grading more in this game compared to Skate 3, although it doesn't beat out Skate 1 or 2 for me. Honestly, art style isn't something that usually bothers me that much. I can look past it. I'm not personally bothered by this next complaint either, but it is very reasonable if people are upset by it. That is, the microtransactions. For a lot of outfits and accessories, a specific in-game currency is needed, which is primarily acquired through purchases. This is why the game is also free to play. I don't care about cosmetics, but this is definitely still a practice I'm not fond of. Another major issue is that this game is online only, meaning that you can't play this without being connected to the internet. The most concerning thing about this is the fact that eventually, albeit not for a while, this game is going to shut down. It's obviously not a major issue at the current moment, but that's going to be terrible when it's determined that this game is no longer profitable. I've been comparing this game to the previous entries a ton, but it feels necessary considering how this game was hyped up for essentially 5 years. Even when online functions were gone, people were still able to play these games at all. And with Skate 2025, that will someday not be the case. I feel like I've been pretty negative for a good chunk of this video, but I had fun playing this game. The physics are extremely wonky, which is one of the best aspects of Skate 3, and it's still great here. You have a lot more movement options while walking, with climbing being the most useful. Falling from tall heights is still pretty funny, and I want to tell you a story from my time playing the game. I fell off a building, torpedo style, and used the replay editor to watch it again. I used the camera setting where it's focused on the player's head and zoomed in really close, and it looked exactly like this. I laughed for several minutes straight watching that footage, and I don't know if I ever found something that funny in the original games. Although, since I guess we can't be happy, another unfortunate thing related to this is the Hall of Meat feature, where the game rated how impressive your bail was, not being part of the game currently. One thing I realized is that for every compliment I have for this game, there are a couple of complaints that just naturally come up. I feel like I've given a pretty good summary of my thoughts on this game. It's entertaining, but incredibly flawed. At the current moment, it is the weakest entry in the Skate franchise, and it leaves quite a bit to be desired. There's certainly room for improvement, but some core parts of this game I'm not a huge fan of are likely here to stay. I wish that I wasn't so harsh on this game, but the first 3 games are my favorite video game trilogy of all time, so this had a lot to live up to. I'm definitely still glad that we got a new Skate game after 15 years, but if I had to choose between playing more of this at its current state or Skate 1 through 3, I would have to stick with the originals. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out some of my other videos, and if you really did, consider subscribing so you know when future content comes out. That's gonna be it for now, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care!